Greetings and welcome to another episode of Master Phil in Your Corner. This is episode number 127. We have a very special guest with us today, Dr. Scott Lynch. And Dr. Lynch was involved in a tumultuous lawsuit against Penn State. So we're going to hear his side of the story and what actually transpired. Dr. Lynch, before we get into it, please give the audience a little bit of your background. Let them know where you come from, what type of athlete you were, and so forth.
Sure. So I grew up in a very small town in central Pennsylvania, a town called Mifflinburg, 3,000 people. So, humble background. Ended up, after I graduated, I went to Naval Academy for a year. I didn't like it there and ended up transferring to Penn State. I was on the wrestling team, of course, through high school and Naval Academy and at Penn State. Fortunately, that was pretty good. So I was a three-time All-American at Penn State. Won the Nationals my senior year.
Yeah, you were more than pretty good, sir. That's quite an accomplishment. Being
I did all right.
One wrestler myself, I know
Yeah.
It's a dogfight.
My degree actually is in electrical engineering. I love music, so I was thinking I wanted to design stereo equipment. So that was my goal, was to be a rock star. I failed at that. Stayed on at Penn State, got my master's in electrical engineering as a grad assistant coach. And then because I got hurt all the time, I actually wrestled the national finals after having a knee scope in January of that year. Came back 2 weeks before the end of the year and moved up a weight and won the nationals that year. With the torn ACL, the ACL surgeries back then were not very good.
No. Who was famous then? Dr. Andrews? Is he the only guy that was really doing it very much back then? Or
well, there's some being done. Dr. Kalanick was the physician at Penn State at the time.
Okay.
So he was doing some, but it wasn't a very good procedure.
Okay.
So it wasn't until about 10 years later people started doing a lot of them.
Yes.
As the technique got better and the graft choices changed. Really, it was the patellar tendon graft that sort of made that surgery work.
Yes.
That was pioneered by a guy named Clancy.
Okay.
So, but in '84, when I graduated, the techniques were terrible.
Yeah.
So fortunately, I didn't have a reconstruction, just a knee scope, and they cleaned up some of the fibers. And so because of that, and a few other injuries, I actually left the hospital in high school. I was a junior with gauze hanging out in front of my knee, and I wrestled that night in the regional tournament.
Wow.
So just, you can't do that anymore with an open wound, but back then I didn't care. So.
It's frowned upon by the community.
Yeah, it wasn't anything dangerous to me, just the risk of disease, bacterial transmission to others. So because of all those experiences of people helping me, I decided to go to medical school.
Wow.
I had to pick up biology and organic chemistry as prerequisites, and then went to med school at Pitt.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's quite a different way to go about getting into med school, though.
Yeah, I tell people I'm not quite right, so I don't do things conventional most of the time.
Yeah.
So I realized that was kind of weird. One day I have a Eurovan with the pop-up camper on it. I had my bow in the back going out to my hunting stand, and I had a Disturbed CD in the CD player. So these things don't really go together. So I like lots of different experiences, and that's sort of how my life kind of goes the way it goes. I like to experience lots of different things and learn about different things.
Yeah, sounds like it. Sounds like it's been pretty interesting. So, the things that generally with these lawsuits, there's an NDA that's involved in it. Apparently, you don't have that. So
No, I would never have signed that.
Yeah, and now, in my estimation, the reason that you didn't sign it so that you can bring attention to what transpired at Penn State. So, from what I've read about this, is that the head football coach at the time wanted you to okay players that were injured to be able to play, and this seemed commonplace.
Yeah, well, it was more than just that. So I guess just to give listeners, if they don't know, a little background.
Okay.
I was the head team physician for football at Penn State and the director of athletic medicine, which meant I was in charge of all the other physicians and athletic trainers that were up there. The med school is in Hershey, so I would spend half the week in State College and half the week in Hershey, where my main practice is. I had several run-ins with Franklin. They got rid of me, in my opinion, was because I wouldn't give in to his attempts to meddle and care of the athletes. It wasn't just returning them to play.
Mm-hmm.
I can give you one example of, there was a kid who tried to commit suicide.
Yeah.
Actually tried to jump off a balcony. And I can tell you this because it's in the public space now.
Yeah. Yeah.
A girl held onto his legs to stop him.
Wow.
So they were asking the medical team, me and the other primary care physician and the athletic trainers, for us to medically disqualify the player before he went through his treatment. And what medically disqualify means is he's off the team forever. So he can't come back at all. And at least in my estimation, the reason was he wasn't a very good player. And he wanted to get another scholarship spot to replace that player. Now,
wow.
The player actually didn't lose his money to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
They just got an extra one. But their goal was to get somebody to replace that player as a better player.
Yeah. Yeah. So they wanted to swap him out.
So that's just one example. That's probably the worst example of them trying to interfere. If a kid tore his ACL, you don't kick him off the team forever.
Right. Wow.
You give him a chance to rehab and come back.
So can you explain to us? So let's set the stage. You're in your office. You're reviewing papers or reviewing X-rays or something, and the coaching staff wants you to overlook an injury or put forth medical clearance. How does that actually transpire? What occurs with that?
Well, there's several different ways it happens.
Yeah.
One is just sort of coming down through the training room and walking through and, giving the glare either to the kids.
Right, to the kids. Sure.
Or to the medical staff. Not really having to say anything, is body language.
Yeah. So he tried to intimidate you.
Oh, yeah. And then
why don't you just take him down?
Well, one time, again, I can talk about this because it's in the public record.
Yeah, right.
Saquon Barkley.
Oh, yeah.
He came to the trial to testify. Not for me, but his testimony actually didn't hurt me.
Yeah.
But he had a high ankle sprain.
Yeah.
And Franklin wanted us to clear him.
Wow.
And he was angry enough. So I got there Friday afternoon to my office in the training room.
Mm-hmm.
And we got called up to his office to sit around the table and talk about why he wasn't going to be able to play.
Yeah.
So it was, getting called to the principal's office to control the environment.
Yeah.
With several other coaches around to put pressure on us to let him play.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty stubborn, so I said no, and he got up and walked. He said, "This meeting's over." Got up and walked over his desk and sat down. his office is huge, of course. So the
Yeah.
office is
Yeah.
way across the other side. There's
Yeah.
desk way across the
Yeah.
other side of the office, and sat down and just that was it. He just walked out.
So, did Saquon want to play, or,
Uh,
or was he just kind of just
I,
they'll do
it's
whatever?
hard to know, honestly,
Yeah.
because you don't know what he's telling you versus what the coaches are pressuring him to
Pressuring him.
tell us.
Yeah.
So he probably wanted to play.
Mhm. Yeah, he's a competitor.
Yeah, he wasn't ready. We weren't going to let him play
Right. Right.
because it didn't make sense. We were playing Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
We were 6-4 or something like that.
Yeah.
Middle of the road team.
Yeah.
Saquon's a NFL prospect ready to make millions.
Yeah.
And if he gets permanently hurt, just what? To finish up 7-5.
Right. 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 Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
so
No,
Franklin can save his job. That's really what it was about. It wasn't about Saquon
no.
or protecting the kid.
Yeah.
It's about saving his. Well, he only made $6 million a year back then, so
Oh, that's it.
saving his $6 million a year salary.
I remember I was contract training the Giants when Saquon got there, and
Mm-hmm.
they loved him, man.
Nice kid.
I have nothing but good things to say about him. Fantastic. I guess I am a Giants fan, but I did root for Philly because of him this year. I couldn't.
Yeah.
I was so happy to see him actually get a Super Bowl ring. Because he's very deserving. So
The other side brought him to testify for them,
yeah.
but everything he said really helped me because he said he and you can read the transcript. He said we took good care of him.
Wow. Hey, let me ask you something else. I was reading also that there's a clause in the Nike contract for spatting. Okay,
Yep.
so if you could maybe explain the spatting so people understand what it is and why. I mean, is Nike don't want the spatting just so their logo isn't there, or because they care about the kids?
Well, I guess you have to make that determination for yourself. But there are two issues. One was covering up the logo.
Yeah.
But there is a sort of a sock that you can put around this shoe that
Mhm.
will show the logo that you can put over the tape.
Okay.
But they also said they don't want tape on the shoe because it gives the impression that their shoe is not any good and doesn't hold up.
Yeah.
The Nike rep actually came and threatened us
Wow.
and said, if you don't stop spatting, we're going to take all our money away.
Wow. Hmm.
So then Franklin would put pressure on more so Tim Brain, the athletic trainer, than the doctors. The athletic trainers are the one physically doing the taping, of course.
Yeah. So let me get this straight. You have a guy who's got a little injury, got an injury, but it's not serious enough that he has to sit, but he can play if you do a specific tape job on it. So it gives him that stabilization. And because of the money involved, the player is put in a position where they could get potentially injured.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Now, there is
Comforting.
there's some medical argument about whether spatting is helpful or not,
Okay.
but that's not for the coach to decide.
Right.
That's for the medical team
Medical
to decide, along with the kid.
Sure.
I'm a big believer in the risk-benefit ratio for the players to decide.
Yeah.
As long as they understand what the risks are.
Yeah.
And they, are making a reasonable decision.
Yeah.
Someone with concussion says, "Oh, I'm willing to die." You're not gonna let that person go back because that's not.
No. That's not.
Just not. They're not thinking straight. That's not a good analysis of the risk benefit ratio.
So how many of these instances did you actually have? Or how long were you the doctor at Penn State?
I was with football for 6 years.
6 years.
The first year I was just the orthopedic consultant for football, but
Right.
last 5 years I was also director of athletic medicine.
And how often
The first year I was with Bill O'Brien.
Okay. Now, how often did this happen? And did it only happen with Franklin?
Yeah, O'Brien is fantastic.
Okay.
If I had a kid, I'd want him to play for Bill O'Brien.
Okay. Good.
He really cares about the kids.
Good. Good. Excellent.
I would not want my kid playing for James Franklin. This, I don't know. I can't give you an exact number, but it was always kind of there.
Yeah.
Especially in regards to the spatting. There was always an undercurrent of you have to stop this, or too many kids on the injury list, too many kids in blue shirts, which was the signal in practice that they were not full go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, the big instances, 8 or 10.
Yeah. Okay. That's significant. That's a significant number. Those are potentially 8 or 10 lives that could be ruined, and they would have injuries that may last their lifetime. But that's tough to tell. And when you were asked by Penn State to put forth the report, correct? And then you furnished this. Tell us how that went down.
So I wasn't asked to make a report.
Oh, okay.
I notified the athletics integrity officer.
Okay.
So let me just clarify one thing for you,
just
from a legal standpoint.
Sure.
So we don't get in trouble.
The
lawsuit that I went to trial with was Penn State Health.
Penn State.
And Dr. Kevin Black, who was my supervisor, he was the chairman of orthopedics at the time.
Okay.
He was the one responsible for actually removing me from the position.
Wow.
There was a second part of the lawsuit, which was against Penn State and Penn State athletics and Coach Franklin and Sandy Barber, who was the athletic director, and some other administrative people. That got dismissed because the judge ruled I didn't file the case on time. So you have 180 days to file a whistleblower suit. And what he ruled is, which really does not make any sense to me, but he ruled that the 180-day clock started the day they told me I was going to be removed, not the actual day I got removed. So we were well within the time, 180 days of the day they actually removed me. Now, if you think about this logically, from the day they told me until they removed me, I don't really have an ability to file a lawsuit because I have not suffered any damage yet.
Yeah. Because you're still.
So if I try to file a suit in that time period, they would throw it out.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make any sense, but that part's kind of done now. So the other half was Penn State Health and Dr. Black, and it's all the same facts. Because they, our argument, which the jury believed, was that they pressured Dr. Black into making the decision to get rid of me because I wouldn't give in. So now, forget what the original question was about. Do you remember?
Yeah, I just want to say like how the whole lawsuit transpired, like how what brought it on.
Okay, it was the integrity officer.
Yes.
So the integrity officer position was set up by the consent decree after the Jerry Sandusky affair.
Yeah.
And that was supposed to be an independent position. Originally, he reported to George Mitchell, who was in charge of the consent decree, who was working for the NCAA and the Big Ten.
Yeah.
So it was supposed to be an independent position outside of athletics.
Right.
Also reported to the board of the directors of Penn State and the university president. So when the consent decree ended, Penn State decided to keep that position.
Okay.
Obviously, now they don't have to give a report to the NCAA of the Big Ten because that's over.
Yeah.
But it was supposed to be an independent position that reported to the university president and Penn State board. So I had been talking to him for a long, long time before I got removed, telling him all these issues. So, and also the woman who was in that position before Bob Bolin was the last one when I was there.
What was their response when you reported this to them?
Well, I was, we were managing it, not giving in. But when I get removed, now we don't have the ability to keep it under control.
Yeah.
So essentially what they're doing is replacing me with someone who will give in.
Yes, of course.
And that's kind of what's happening all across the NCAA is if you don't comply, they'll get someone who will. So it's a self-selecting issue.
Yes.
This is not just the Penn State issue, and that's why I did this. Not to hurt Penn State,
No.
I love Penn State. It changed my life.
Yeah.
But these people are not Penn State. Penn State is the people in the trenches who do all the work every day.
Yeah.
So that we need to get those people out of there, and we need to get better measures in place with the NCAA so we can try to protect these kids better.
It's like you said, it's not only Penn State, because I know a few years back there was a football player. Gosh, his name escapes me, at Maryland, University of Maryland. That's my alma mater. That's why I went. So, but he died from heat exhaustion. But that wasn't an isolated incident. There were several mistakes made up until that point, and it was actually a wrongful death. Do you remember that player's name or? Oh, gosh,
I just had it tip of my tongue and I can't remember it. It's Mick something.
I can actually just look it up.
Yeah, sorry. I feel bad. I don't remember.
Yeah,
but he's not the only one that happened to.
Yeah,
there are several, actually a good number of those cases.
Yeah.
Not too long after my trial ended, there was a kid at Bucknell who
Oh yeah.
died.
Well, actually, my nephew plays for that for Bucknell, and he was there at the camp.
Yeah, it was the first day of camp.
Yep.
First day of kid on campus. They overworked him and got rhabdomyolysis and died about a week later.
Yep. Jordan McNair. How can we not
Yes.
remember McNair? From Steve McNair. Yeah, Jordan McNair. Yeah. That's yeah, so what do you think can be done here? Now you blew the whistle, and now these schools are obviously hiring doctors who are going to toe the line and be puppets of the athletic department. So what do you think can be done to protect these kids? Who's their advocate?
I do want to say they're not all like that.
I know. Yeah, okay.
There are good people out there.
I'm sure there
who are trying to do the right thing. So I don't want to disparage my whole profession, but
yeah.
But the people that are in charge and have all the money, which is the NCAA and universities and the coaches
Yes.
and the athletic directors. They're trying to control all this and get rid of the people who will stand up for the kids.
Yeah.
So it's a constant battle.
Yeah. So
how do you fix it?
Yeah, that's my. How do you fix this?
I shouldn't say fix because it's not gonna
fix. How do we address it?
You can make it better.
Yeah.
You can improve the situation.
Yeah.
So I'm now on the board of directors for the College Football Players Association.
Excellent.
So what we're trying to do is to get some collective bargaining so the players can control their own fate some. And even before I was on this board, my idea was to have a panel of medical providers, either physicians or seasoned athletic trainers, similar to drug-free sport.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an independent organization outside of the NCAA,
mm-hmm.
and they will embed a medical person at the university.
Yeah.
It won't stay for more than 3 to 5 years, so you don't become attached to the university. And that person is in charge of hiring and firing all of the medical staff.
Wow. Okay.
And I think that person shouldn't take care of any of the athletes to avoid any conflict of interest.
Mm-hmm.
And they're solely in charge of policy and procedures and hiring and firing. And then going around and talking to the players and coaches, everyone involved, to monitor things. Because what happens now is the players are afraid. They're afraid to talk to anyone because everyone that's hired there is hired by the university.
Yes. Yeah.
And they're afraid they're not going to get to play or they'll get cut, which is a valid concern. Or even after they graduate, if they don't want to stay involved in football, they'll get blackballed.
Get blackballed. Absolutely.
So there's tons and tons of stories out there that we've heard that we can't really talk about because we don't want to throw anyone under the bus.
No.
And that they're afraid to talk. And then they get blasted by people on Twitter and
social media,
whatever it's called now.
Yep. Yeah. Twitter, TikTok, whatever else is out there. But,
people don't want to go through that.
No. And now, do you think that the NIL and the portal will help the athletes or make no difference in these instances? Or do you think might be able to leverage that?
So what I think has happened is it's helped the top 15 to 20% of the players.
Yeah.
The good players.
Yeah.
It's hurt the other 80% or so.
Yeah.
Because if you get injured now, coach would just say, you need to go in the portal and get out of here.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Unless you're a top tier player, then they're going to keep you.
Yeah.
So it helps in some ways, but hurt in others.
Always that double-edged sword.
So the collective bargaining unit actually could help with that, because then as an organization, they can figure out what's the best path forward to control. A lot of these transfers every year, that's not good for anybody. It's not even good for the kid, essentially, because they don't get an education if you change the schools every year. And they're making more money, but in the end, it may not be the best thing for those kids. That can help to control some of that too, by just establishing rules that the players themselves figure out how it's going to work.
Now, the whole notion of moving forward with the advocacy, how far along are you with that right now? And I'm assuming you're getting pushback on that. But.
Well, the guy who started it, his name is Jason Stahl. You might want to have him on. Actually, I could talk to him if you want to have him on your show.
I'd love to. Yeah.
He was a former professor at Minnesota and was a whistleblower also.
Okay.
for players that were in his class, and they essentially fired him. And he started this organization about 5 years ago now.
Okay.
So we're making progress. I just got put on the board. I just had my first board meeting on Wednesday.
Okay.
So it's still getting my feet wet.
Oh, excellent.
But the number one issue is health and safety. It's not NIL, it's not money, it's health and safety.
Yes. Very interesting.
So, yeah, you've probably seen in the news, President Trump's talking about setting up a commission to discuss NCAA football stuff.
Yes. Yeah. Just saw that recently.
Hopefully we can get a seat at the table,
Yeah.
have some input.
And how many people in the organization currently on the board?
There are 5 board members and the executive director, which is Jason Stahl's the executive director and the founder.
We'd definitely like to speak with him.
Yeah, I'll get in touch with you.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great.
He knows I'm doing this today.
Oh, he does? Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Great, great. Yeah, I mean, look, this is something that is sorely needed. Especially looking at what you went through, because people have to understand the amount of pressure that was put on you to cave, to acquiesce, to turn a blind eye. And I would definitely attribute it not only to your educational background, but to your wrestling background. That's why you were a stalwart on this, and did not acquiesce and maintained your integrity. It's not easy to do. It's easy to turn the other way, and it's understandable how a lot of people do. I get it, but it doesn't mean it's right. So
yeah, I guess I hear that a lot. I sort of don't look at it that way myself. I don't think it was that hard for me, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
It was much harder for my wife because she doesn't have all the information, and she doesn't like seeing people say bad things about me on the internet or whatever.
Yeah.
I just don't really care that much, and the people at work are phenomenal.
Yeah,
because all the people around me know what the real story is, and they know what was happening.
Yeah.
And privately, they'd come up to me and ask me how I was doing, and say, "You're doing the right thing. Keep going."
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent.
All the way down from the housekeeping, all the way up to my fellow physicians. Everyone in between those positions would come up to me and thank me and say, "You're helping the kids." So,
yeah.
And I didn't ever want it to be about me. I don't like that. I'm a pretty quiet person.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to do something to protect these kids.
Yeah. Now, did any of the kids ever contact you in regard to this, or?
Yeah, a bunch of them.
Yeah, good.
Rob Windsor, one of the football players, testified for me.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
And there were several others. I actually had one player when the story came out about the player who tried to commit suicide.
Yeah.
This other player saw it in the news, and he sent me a text and says, "Is that about me?" And it wasn't about him. It was about someone else.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean, this is, you send your kid off to school, get an athletic scholarship, or get involved in an athletic program, and you trust and you believe, and then some of these things happen, and honestly, I would have to attribute it to the amount of money that's being thrown around, because people don't want to lose that money and they want to keep that gravy train going. But there's
and
problems attached to that.
Yeah, that's the reason it happens with the coaches and athletic directors and universities. That's money.
Yeah.
And they always come out with these BS statements after nothing's more important to us than the health and safety of our players.
Yeah.
Well, actions speak a lot louder than your silly words. So you're not doing what you say you're doing. You're just trying to make money and don't want to throw away, don't want to give up your power. but then there's another side of it, which is the fans. So I always thought about this for a long time. The fans and the media, really.
Mm-hmm.
The fans, it's their escape from reality.
Yes.
They're not bad people.
No.
They just don't want to have to think about it because, they're at work or at home and maybe struggling, and they can go watch a football game for entertainment and not have to think about any of these things. So it's hard for them to get slapped with the reality of the coaches are, abusing these players.
Yeah.
So they just don't read about it, block it out of their mind. So I thought about it a long time. Why don't people care so much? It's not really they don't care. It's just they sort of don't care, but not that they don't want these players being abused.
Right.
It's just they can't handle thinking about their entertainment and getting faced with reality again while they're trying to get away from reality.
Well, yeah, like you just said, they use it as an escape, and if they have to go, think of these players and situations. These people have issues too. They don't want to think about that. They want their escape. Just, hey, I want to see a great game, and I want to see my team win.
Yep. Yep.
I got to have some joy at the end of the week here. So, yeah.
And then some of them go overboard. It's so much so that a coach can do no wrong. It's ridiculous. Yeah. And then the sports media doesn't really care. And if you think about it, how being a sports writer for Penn State football, that's a pretty cushy job. They don't want to rock the boat.
No. Oh yeah, no.
They pay decent money. They're flying all over the country to cover the football game. So they just become cheerleaders and not really journalists.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, we see that far too often in the media and other outlets as well. But that's a whole nother discussion. But so what do you think? How can people support this? Is there anything the average person can do? What is there any type of message we could leave the audience with on this? It's just hey, just know what's out there, know what's going on, or hey, support what we're doing. Here's how we support. Here's how that they can help you support this program that you're putting through.
That's a really good question. You're the first one actually ever asked me that question.
That's because I'm the best around. That's why.
Yeah. So what can an average fan do? So, number one, just bring attention to it. Mm-hmm. Don't ignore it because it's your reality escape. Yeah. Don't let them get away with it. Keep it in the forefront.
Yeah.
If you're going to give money, demand that the coach just be held responsible and that schools and athletic directors are held responsible for helping to protect these kids. Yeah. Otherwise, don't give the money.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're going to give NIL money, make sure they have some kind of body that's independent, that's going to oversee the health and welfare of these kids. Yeah. If you're a former college football player, speak up about what happened to you, or any other athlete. I wrestled. So
yeah,
I was hurt all the time, but my coaches never forced me to do anything. Of course, I wouldn't give it anyway, but they never tried to pressure me into doing something that wasn't right. Yeah. So talk about what happened. Get these stories out there so the fans know what's going on.
Yeah.
Join the organization. If you're a college or high school football player, the dues for the organization that I'm with, the College Football Players Association. You can join as a high school kid or as an alumni. It's free for high school and college players, active players.
Okay.
And there's a small dues for former alumni. So join.
Yeah.
so we can get the word out and try to make the situation better.
Absolutely. What I'll do is I'll put the URL for this in the description of the podcast when we post it up. So people will know, hey, here's where you go. Here's how you get involved. Here's how you support. Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Perfect.
Hey, well, thank you very much for coming on the podcast today. This has been extremely informative. And it's people have to know about this stuff. And I'm glad that you have the guts to come out there and tell the truth.
Well, I tell everyone I have to sleep at night.
Yep.
If I know this is going on and I don't do anything, I'm no better than they are. So that's really what it comes down to.
Well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed episode number 127. Don't forget to check out philross.com as well as the bodybellmethod.com. And also go and check out the College Football Players Association and check out the articles on Dr. Scott Lynch. Again, Dr. Lynch, thank you very much for coming on. Strength and honor.
Thanks for having me.